All right. Hello and welcome everyone to the Tennocon 2022 breakdown. So, disclaimer, I am fresh off about 12 hours of Tennocon streaming and also note-taking and organizing of all of the information we got today. So, if I missed anything, my apologies, but I think I got all the important stuff all wrapped up into a nice bow for us to discuss and go over for everything that happened at Tennocon, at least so far that we know about. There may be a few other things that we'll go about in that kind of bottom one there, but we'll get there when we get there. So, lots of stuff. Tons of stuff. We knew we were going to see the Duviri paradox and all that, but in addition to that, there is quite a lot to discuss here. So, we are going to be using our new note stuff, which once again, let me know if you like the way that I'm going to be presenting this. This is like a new way for me to be doing things as I did with the Tennocon prep video. So if you like how this is done, let me know. We are also notably going to be watching some portions of the stream and also hitting the trailers that were put out, except for one, which I'm just going to put on the end of this video. And that's going to be, we're going to discuss those things. Those things are going to be shown. There will be spoilers for Warframe, though. If you're watching this video, I assume you're pretty well caught up. With that, let's start. First and foremost, we had the pre-Tennolive Dev QA panel. This gave us some information about coming updates that were not talked about in the proper Tennolive show. And we also have the art panel to talk about as well, which gave us a lot of information prior to the big main event. So with that, first and foremost, we have coming reworks. We have two reworks that are going to be in the next update, and that is going to be for Excalibur and Mag. And for Mag, we have additional details that Mag's changes are going to be focused on new player changes. So they're going to be making her a better starter Warframe. And I have, for those of you that have been around the streams for a while, infinite thoughts about how Mag could be a considerably better starter and just better frame in general. And I am going to be making a video on what I think should change about Mag, and that is going to be pretty much as soon as possible to have a nice, concise place to talk about where I think Mag needs to be in order to be the best starter that she can be without, she doesn't need anything crazy, just like considerable changes for players that don't have a lot yet. I think there's a lot to be done with Mag that can make her a whole lot better. It was somewhat implied that it would be similar for Excal, but wasn't explicitly said like it was for Mag. So we'll see where that goes from here. But it can be assumed, especially due to some other things we're going to talk about later, that the Excal and Mag changes are going to be a part of the update for additional reasons besides just making the new player experience better. Also, it was specifically called out that for like future reworks, basically whenever they have time, Pablo wants to work on a Grendel rework, which thumbs up. Grendel is a Warframe that I am quite fond of conceptually. I think that his kit really flows well together in terms of the gameplay portion of it, but he's just a Warframe that just lacks in numbers, and he doesn't have the mechanics to fight what the enemies actually throw at you. And given those few things, which honestly is not like a crazy amount for Grendel, it's very few things whenever you really break it down, I think that that has a lot of potential. Grendel does not need a lot to really fix him, and that would be absolutely excellent, because I would love to be able to use his 4 to actually kill enemies at high levels, because it is extremely, extremely fun, at least for me. So that's with the coming reworks that we know we're getting. 3 reworks was 3 more than I was expecting to see, so absolutely thumbs up on that. Sounds awesome. And we have a few Duviri confirmations. This is what we got prior to seeing the actual gameplay and stuff that we get into in a bit. But Duviri confirmations are that there are going to be no bounties, no fishing, and no mining. So this is not just like another open world. It is instead a brand new type of thing, and we're going to get more into that whenever we properly talk about it. But this experience, as they stated in this panel, is that it's going to be more guided and less about like going and collecting random things. So it'll be interesting to have like their take on an open world that doesn't have those types of things, because all of the open worlds so far have in big part been that stuff whenever we're talking about getting the rewards out of it. So that's an interesting consideration going into Duviri, which we're going to be getting later this year. Pre-Tennolive art panel, there's going to be a lot here to talk about. First and foremost, deluxe skins. So for deluxe skins, we have Titania's Deluxe 2. This is out right now, and it is absolutely phenomenal. It is an incredibly good looking skin. It's like very like high tech, like very showy and like very different from her other deluxe skin. I'm a huge fan of it. I picked it up like immediately, and was using it on stream pretty extensively. Pairs really, really well with them giving everyone a Titania Prime for those of you that made it for the Tennolive show. Of course, just a smart decision on the top end there, I think, and it will probably work out very well for them considering that the skin is also very high quality and comes with a cool Sandana with the bundle, of course. Also, someone at DE realized that the Zaku deluxe skin doesn't have a selling point based on ass and titties, for lack of a better term. So there is a new Zaku Deluxe cosmetic that is going to be bundled with Zaku Deluxe. And Zaku Deluxe is a concept that I think is already really cool, but they know how to sell a deluxe bundle to most people, I would say. For those that do not know, this is a skin for the Lotus. So, yeah, I think a considerable amount of people are going to be very interested in acquiring such a thing. So, all I have to say about that is stonks for DE, essentially. This just seems like a decision that was made entirely with the completely correct and entirely right assumptions about the state of the Warframe community. 100% hit the nail on the head. I will be acquiring this day one, guaranteed, obviously. So yeah, and I already liked the Zaku skin. Like, that was already going to happen. Yeah. Yep. They know what they did. Now, we also have some new characters that were introduced during this art panel for the Duviri Paradox and also for Voidbreaker, which we're going to get into more detail later. We have Dominus Thrax. Dominus Thrax appears to be kind of the lord of the Duviri open world. And there's not a whole lot of details about what his deal is other than that he is the leader, and the same can be said of Bombastine. Bombastine appears to be kind of just a storyteller. Then you see there like a theater or a play that will give you like information and or rewards based on the gameplay we saw. It seems like he's going to be like a reward giver, but he was also at the in-game theater that everyone got to see for some of the presentation. And then the third new question mark character is Archon Era. It is just listed as new Archon, so it is not necessarily Era. But also, that's Era. Like, on the other coin flip of this, that is Era. Like, for sure. So something turned Era into an Archon, and I guess that is going to be the continuation of his arc, because obviously he kind of got, like, ripped out of the story in a pretty clear-cut way, which they notably kind of called out that they actually had to cut more things with Era for time on the new war, and I really appreciate the honesty on DE's part, just being like, yeah, just for time, and like it just hit, that's just the stuff that hit the cutting room floor, is like a very like upfront way to go about that, which is cool to see. So yeah, we have the new character art, and we have the werewolf frame. So the werewolf frame has indeed been confirmed. It is not the next Warframe, but the concepting has been done by Joe Mad, which is a name that I have heard before, and they are generally known for Marvel Comics and Darksiders, as far as I can tell. I am not a person who like deeply knows his work, but he seems like a quite talented artist, and we have the final concept for our wolf-inspired frame. This is really cool. They didn't end up with, it's a female frame first and foremost, and they did not end up on what I was worried about with a werewolf frame. What I was worried about with a werewolf frame is that we were going to end on kind of just like a generic furry, where it would be like, ah yes, they are a wolf. Their gimmick is that they howl. It is a wolf. Well done. You have given the players that wanted the furry bait, and then well done. You did it very well. Wow, look at that. It's an animal person. Like, I thought that's what this was going to be, but given this concept, this looks more like a crazy, like, bone werewolf soul shaman. And that's fucking cool. That's just an like super interesting concept, and like seems to lend itself to a really, really cool power set. So we'll see how this really awesome concept translates into in-game powers and such. But yeah, they look amazing. Much like way above my possible expectations for what I would assume a werewolf frame would be. But yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Like the crazy like skull and like the werewolf skull like look to her and everything. She looks great. So that's phenomenal. Was very, very pleased to be very happy with that concept after not really having any hopes for it whatsoever, honestly. So that's very cool. And now getting into Tennolive. So with Tennolive, Korra Prime is already released. I have already farmed her, and I have already formed her. So there is a impending video about that, about the entire Prime access. So look forward to it. That is going to be the plan. That will be very soon. I think that visually, she looks really cool. Her like kind of new theming is like this kind of like dancer theme is really neat. Although, I will say, in terms of the Prime Access overall, I do think that the Prime accessories are pretty weak. There's an emote that comes with it that is called a Narta, and Nartas are usually, like, you know, our big fancy, like, thematic dances, and or just goofy dances. They're all called Nartas. But originally, that's what they were, and it is more like a slightly elaborate bow is what we actually got out of that emote. I really would have liked to see that be more of, like, a bigger thing, considering the other stuff in the accessories is like a Sindana, which is a nice Sindana, but you know, the Narda seems like kind of a weak thing overall. But overall, I do really like Korra. I have not used the Hystrix or the dual carries, but I will say the dual carries are just another dual sword as far as I can tell, which makes them not exciting at all. Even if they're the new very best dual swords, we got about 100,000 very best dual swords. I got a whole pile of them in my orbiter, and I think everyone is well and over dual swords again. So that is a bit unfortunate for Korra, but the Hystrix does have the potential to be cool because it does have a neat gimmick, so I will see how that is whenever I acquire it. Moving on, crossplay/save news. We have quite a bit of news here, and there appears to be like large motions toward moving into getting crossplay and cross-save done. With that being that crossplay is going to be first, which is something that we kind of got some hints towards already. But this is hard confirmation that crossplay is going to be first, and soon community testing is going to be beginning. So they're going to be bringing people in, like likely to test servers and such, to get people on like the Xbox and PlayStation side and the PC side and have them all play together and make sure everything works. So testing beginning soon bodes very, very well. The testing phase leads directly into the release phase, of course. So crossplay is hopefully going to be before the end of the year. There were no guarantees put out, but if testing is going to be like coming up really, really soon, I definitely think that it's very possible that they get that done before the end of the year for crossplay. And in terms of cross save, we are going to be getting some parody events. So on July 29th, at the end of this month, we are going to be having the Borrow Katir parody event. And this is not going to drastically impact you if you are a PC player, but if you are on any other platform, your Borrow Katir is going to bring a lot of items. You are going to be caught up to the current Borrow Katir rotation. And what that essentially means is that he's going to bring all the stuff he didn't bring and just give everybody all the stuff so that everyone can be on the exact same Borrow Katir rotation so that that stuff all lines up and everybody is caught up to the current Borrow Katir so that they are no longer different per platform. That's great. Lining that stuff up is just absolutely needed for cross-save to work, because if things are out of whack per platform, then things just don't work out. They did say they are going to also be doing that for relays. I do wonder what they're going to choose for relays, like whether it's just like the most popular platform is the one they pick for all the relays that stay the way they are or whatever, or if we're going to have an event that like pretty obviously blows up certain relays and rebuilds others. But yeah, either way, they're going to start bringing everything in line and getting like all the timers in game all synced up across all platforms and making sure that things are ready to go into that cross save territory and get things done. Then on a not minor note, but really we got kind of no information. We have a new game/studio that is partnering with DE for the development of the game. There's not even a name given for this game, and we know that we're going to be getting the full reveal of it at the TGAs later this year. It appears to be an MMO that has potential, I guess. I mean, I'll certainly give it a look. Like, honestly, like very honestly, like if DE is willing to like work with them on it and help them development, I'll give it a shot. Like, that's just, you know, baseline. DE's done a good job with Warframe, and if they've got their hands in this, I'll absolutely give it a look-see and see how it is. But, yeah, no real information to go off of on that one. But more news later this year at the TGAs. Maybe it'll look insane. We'll see. And then we have Veilbreaker. So, Veilbreaker, we don't have a ton of information on. We do have a trailer for it, and I'm very excited for it, but there's not a ton of information, and I suspect on the next dev stream next month, we're going to be hearing a lot more about Veilbreaker, as this is the update that we're going to be getting before the Duviri Paradox. This update is going to be a new war continuation, and this is going to contain Protea Deluxe, based on what they said. There wasn't super explicit, but they did basically say that Protea Deluxe is going to be in this update. Like, that was very extremely heavily implied. And also, we have a new frame, Styanax? I believe it's Styanax. That sounds right. That is going to be releasing. This is going to be the 50th Warframe with a 6-minute short film to accompany it on launch. We interrupt your regularly scheduled Tennocon breakdown to bring you. I forgot to talk about Styanax and also show the trailer for Styanax. So here it is. We do not have a ton here, but we do have this. So, that is what we have on Styanax. They appear to be a spear-wielding, dope-as-hell paladin, and they look super sick. I can't wait to see what their actual power set is, but look behind you. Make sure your Oberon is not quickly crawling into the Helminth to be subsumed in shame, because Oberon has been known as the paladin frame, and this, like, Spartan warrior paladin-looking hybrid appears to be here for all of his lunch and his dinner too. So yeah, Styanax looks very cool. My apologies for accidentally skipping over it in the original, but there's kind of a lot here. Moving on. Enjoy the rest. Also, for this update, Call 175 returns. There are going to be new mechanics and cosmetics related to Call, and it seems like there's going to be more longer-term repeatable content for Call, because obviously we're getting cosmetics, and you probably wouldn't have that for just a one-off thing you only run once. Also, we are going to be getting the Archon fights with full parties, and it's seemingly like more content revolving around the Archons. For that, let us check out the trailer. It is quite short, but here we go. Random note, if anyone does not remember, those things are called veils. That's why this is the Veilbreaker. Call. Naira returns with her full parties. You can see Protea Deluxe here. Amar. Owl. See the cosmetics for Call here. Thumpers. So you can see here that Call has like more like jet booster mechanics and such. So they're definitely like expanding upon what Call can do here in terms of what you're gonna have control wise / ability wise. It's only a small glimpse into that, and it's pretty much all we get besides this here, which is just like grenade throwing, which we kind of already had. Like freeing his brothers from the control appears to be his goal. And then in addition, we have Archon Era.
Call, not afraid.
So that's Veilbreaker. Looks very cool. That is the upcoming, the upcoming update that we're going to be getting. Not a lot of details. I do expect to hear a lot more about this before it properly comes out. But reminder that this is ostensibly the next update, so this should also contain the Excal and Mag reworks, and maybe even potentially more than that. Volt was not mentioned, but it does appear that they are kind of wanting to touch all of the starters, so perhaps the Volt will also be included, although that is speculation on my part. Moving on. The Duviri paradox. We have a lot to talk about the Duviri paradox. First and foremost, this is positioned before the new war. There is a full 20 minutes of gameplay that, if you want more depth into this, I would highly suggest you watch the entire thing, as there's kind of a lot there in terms of like mechanics presented and things that we're going to be doing. But that 20 minutes covers what they described as like kind of the intro quest to the Duviri paradox. There are horse mounts, and this is a roguelike open world where you play as the Drifter, probably the Drifter. You do appear to be an older Drifter, and at the end of the trailer we're going to watch, that seems to be supported. And it is going to be a mix of puzzles and combat, at least as far as we can tell from the intro quest that we are shown. And it is going to be an open world where you ride on horseback and get basically like you follow these two different events and things, and basically use void energy to light up the world. Most of the world is like in grayscale, but as you use void energy like blasts and stuff, it lights up the environment into like this very colorful landscape, which will be interesting to see how they use. And with that, the totems that generate these sprites that you'll follow to events and things also work as seemingly like Dark Souls bonfires for you to respawn. You do not have like infinite revives or anything, and death will send you back to bonfires and checkpoints as such. With that, the roguelike elements of this as seen, there is some speculation that I have about what we could see, but what we have guaranteed is that there are going to be different bonuses that you can pick from as you complete objectives. This is after completing like an objective for Bombastine at the little amphitheater that you ride up to. Though basically, like melee attacks will deal 100 heat damage, Loyal Steed, which allows you to call the horse from anywhere. Then after dodge, void energy will burst around you, staggering enemies. So different buffs to pick from, different abilities to pick from. I think that like there's a lot of potential in terms of like different effects that you could be getting, especially if they are going to be combined into kind of larger systems of randomness that honestly seem to be quite available for a mode like this. This is going to reset daily and offer new choices, and it seems like they want it to be very different each time you would go into it. I do wonder like how much randomness there could really be with how much kind of story stuff we saw, but again, there is, this is the intro quest version of this, so it's kind of hard to say what like the kind of final repeatable gameplay stuff will actually look like on like a day-to-day basis. With that, I have speculation about the mode and open world based on gameplay that we'll see here, but we're going to do that in a second after watching the Paradox trailer in full. Also, sorry, massive spoilers for a lot.
I thought I had lost you for a moment, but you don't get to leave.
Ever get that feeling you're stuck, spinning inside your little wheel day in and day out, only to find you're right back where you started?
Wake up,
Why are you fighting back? We both know who's in charge.
Take my old blade if you want a chance with that mockery of a Dax.
Extremely cool.
How dare he keep trying to leave? What's out there that's so fascinating? Maybe I
So right here, we get 4 riders on horses. And this appears to be 4 operators. And even though this is clearly the one that we see in the trailer, this is the operator we see in the trailer, this is the drifter in kind of their full getup. And then we have like the regular operator here. It seems. It's not clear to me whether this implies 4-player co-op or that there are even more versions of the drifter at work. So that's why I say potentially we are not the drifter as we know them. We could be a drifter. So that is up for consideration, and that's why I say that. But yeah, that is supposed to be the end of this year, and looks absolutely incredible. Now, as for this clip here, that's the Styanax. We'll watch in a moment. I have a thing. This is from 15:16 into the full 20-minute gameplay demo. I do want to play this part because I have a lot of speculation based on this one little part. So this is the drifter, which we're just going to call them the drifter, coming through a portal and being in an area that showcases the starter warframes and where you would get up for the tutorial of the game, where we'll meet Teshin, who appears to be back in at least some form and looks thoroughly beaten up, but also extremely cool.
So, you finally took the hand, did you?
Also, for those that don't know, the hand is literally the Lotus's hand that gets cut off during the new war.
You know how this works. Why would today be the first time? Your ignorance is second only to your apathy. What I struggle to comprehend is why the other side is even trying to help you.
Just probably our
The
regular
other
operator.
side. Who's trying to help me?
Love this line.
You are. See for yourself.
Such a good line read. I absolutely love it.
You should make a choice here, I think. See where it goes. Gotta stay true to the poster boy.
I thought so. Old dogs and new tricks. Go on, go wallow in your routine.
Fine, I'm getting out of here on my own.
Oh, now. That would be a surprise, wouldn't it? Take my old blade if you want a chance with that mockery of a Dax.
Perhaps we're simply not ready yet to take on a Warframe.
So the drifter gets swords, and that's really cool. However, based on what Reb says and based on the situation presented here, and that it is an intro quest, I have many thoughts. Those thoughts are as such. There is a large opportunity here with this roguelike mode to totally take the capabilities of the mod system and the modifiers and parameters that you can apply to all of the weapons and warframes in the game as they stand right now, to have a mode that has a lot of depth. In that, this is supposed to take place before the new war. So, post the new war, the proper, like, kind of end game mode could open up that allows the drifter to utilize warframes, because based on like current gameplay and what we do with the drifter post new war, it would appear that they do have void powers and the capability of transference and so on and so forth. Because at the end of the new war, if you choose them, they do pilot a warframe that is all there. With all that being said, this is positioned before, so for the tutorial quest, they would not have access to the ability to transference into that warframe and take control and so on and so forth, and you would instead have the rest of kind of the intro quest to go off of. But when you return later, it could be that the setup for this mode is that whenever you enter in, you would be the drifter and have these cool swords and like probably have some like other capabilities as well, possibly your amp. many things could, like, there's so many possibilities for what you start with, and that's just not known. But the capability to have a mode that you run through where you say, like, defeat an area or complete an objective, and you are offered a particular Warframe. Like, say, for example, you complete the particularly hard challenge, let's say, and it offers you a Protea with 150% duration, 140% efficiency, 200% range, but only like 70% strength. Do you take that Warframe and like just move on? Like, you just hop into them, transference in, and like now you have a Warframe, and if that Warframe dies, they just fall away and you're the drifter again, and like you can pick up another Warframe or like different guns as you move through. There's a lot of potential for what the roguelike mode could entail. And I think that that is supremely interesting with where they could go with it. Do I know that it's going to be that or anything like that? No, this is just speculation on my part. But I do think that this mode has a tremendous amount of possibility attached to it, and could be very replayable and very, very interesting. Overall, based on what they showed, I think that it looks really cool. The landscapes are very interesting. There was a lot of concept art shown off in like the art panel and stuff, for the kind of environments that it appears to have. And it all just looks awesome. Like the intro quest, like seeing Teshin again, the way that it's set up, I think is very interesting, and I can't wait to play it. I know for a lot of people, with the new war, people were not very excited about not being your Warframe most of the time, and this does appear to be, you know, a good chunk more of that. But I do think that it has a lot of potential there, and I do think that those quests, like used in a way where we are still the Warframe, or like we're moving in and out of the between Drifter / Operator and Warframe gameplay, I think there is tons of potential there. And as someone who really enjoys Cascade, which capitalizes on doing both at the same time, I think there's a lot that they can do positively there. But we will have to see where they go with it. And of course, you know, it'll be a good couple months until the end of the year whenever we get this thing in our hands. Moving on, that is the Duviri Paradox, which I think looks awesome. But we have potentially even larger news for DE and their future. This is SOULFRAME. SOULFRAME is a new game being worked on by DE. This trailer I am going to include at the end of this video if you'd like to watch it, because it is quite long. There is quite a lot there. I do think that this game looks very cool, and I have kind of collected all of like the known things about the game besides the trailer, which come from not only like the stream itself and like the talk of it, but also from some articles that have been posted with other interviews with the devs. So as such, we have some quotes here that are from like Washington Post, which has like the most concise version of all of the information. The setting is inspired by Princess Mononoke, just Ghibli stuff. And it is a fantasy setting. This fantasy setting is opposed to the sci-fi setting of Warframe, but is supposed to be sufficiently weird, as described by Steve. It is worth noting that calling Warframe a sci-fi setting is like true, but also there's a heck of a lot of magic in Warframe. And in this game, there appears to be a good chunk of technology, though it seems to be more like kind of a steampunky / industrial type technology, which is considerably different from the type of technology that we deal with in Warframe. So I think it is still going to be very different. It is going to be a free-to-play open-world adventure game. We do not know the status of if it's going to be like 4-player co-op or what that is going to be, but we have plenty of stuff here. I'm just going to read through these. The conceit in SOULFRAME is that the world itself is a little angry about what's been done to it, and the ground underneath tend to shift throughout the day, which is a comment from Jeff. So there's going to be proceduralism within the cave networks and crevices and so on underneath the world. So you would have like an overworld that would ostensibly remain much the same, but have like delves into the underground, which seems interesting. And then where Warframe is focused on shooting, this one is focused on melee, which speaks to me personally as someone who loves melee. This is comments from Steve. Where Warframe is super fast and crazy high speed, this one's going to be a lot more slow and heavy, but it still has a lot of similarities to the genre that we have experience in. With that, there were also questions about if it is going to be like Elden Ring or if it is going to be a Souls-like game. And the responsive comments from that were interesting in that they basically responded in such a way as to say, well, it's not like directly inspired by the Souls games and everything. However, we have played Elden Ring, and goddamn them for making such an excellent game, which, you know, everyone's played Elden Ring, right? And if there are parts of this game that evoke the feeling of Elden Ring, because they mentioned comparative pacing in terms of combat, I don't see that as a negative in any way, shape, or form personally, as someone who was extremely into Elden Ring. That sounds great. If there's like any similarities at all, pretty much going to be thumbs up from me. And then finally, after finding success with regular Warframe behind-the-scenes Twitch streams, they plan to give fans a look behind the curtain of SOULFRAME as early as possible. Ideally, that process will begin as soon as possible, and Digital Extremes diehards will get to play a version of SOULFRAME within a year. So with that is fast. There are additional comments from Steve about saying that they kind of announced it too soon, but due to some other things that is going to affect, namely Warframe development, they wanted to get out and be upfront with everybody as soon as possible and basically get out that they are developing SOULFRAME and that is going to be a big focus of what DE is doing. And they want to be as transparent as possible with how the development on all of the things that they're working on are going, like how the development is and like who's working on what and all of that kind of stuff, because DE has just generally been good about giving us that kind of information and insight into what they're doing. With that, we move into DE's future. DE's future is going to be interesting, and a lot of these changes, as the devs have said, have kind of been taking place for like the past, basically since the beginning of the year. And that is that DE Steve, DE Scott, and DE Jeff are moving to SOULFRAME development. Those are the ones that we know absolutely for sure. And that is really big. That is like really big because obviously Steve, Scott, and Jeff have been absolute pillars of Warframe for the entirety of its life, really. And even before its life, actually, for, you know, yeah, like they are like, you know, Steve is the backbone of like the creation of Warframe and like the person that pushed it forward to be made in the first place, from all we know. And that's really huge that those three are going to be moving on. However, Rebecca will be taking up the helm as creative director, leading Warframe forward, taking Steve's position of creative director. There will be of course be many shifts in positions, and I will be talking more about them as things seem to solidify and we get more information about kind of who's where. We do know that Megan is going to be taking Rebecca's position. Obviously, Megan is a seasoned professional and has been on the community team also since basically the beginning, really. So I think that's nothing much is going to change there, and things are just going to continue to be in good hands as they have been. And absolutely massive congratulations to Reb. That is like a huge leap, and her kind of story throughout the like line of Warframe of going from like where she started, which was like basically like unpaid intern while the studio was flailing and just trying to survive, or maybe paid intern, whatever. But like she started from like the very fledgling beginnings of Warframe and has, you know, become the lead for the game now almost 10 years later. That's like a really extremely crazy story to just go through, and it is supremely well deserved, as we are all very well aware of how much Rebecca cares about the game and just wants the best for it. And she's been there alongside Steve and everyone else that like it's going to be very clear that she like, you know, shares that big vision of like the whole crew. And I think that if Rebecca were leaving with Steve, Scott, and Jeff, and leaving is quote unquote, Steve goes into many comments about how he's had to force himself to keep himself away from Warframe and let others kind of take the helm. That's all. Like I think Rebecca will do well, and I think like the teams in general, like I think DE is going to get a lot larger because they need to build, you know, a whole second team to work on a whole second game, and that probably only bodes well for the future of DE, and of course for Warframe, because like we have these big updates on the horizon. Big updates have been good recently, and like we're getting crossplay, cross save. Everything seems to be coming together in a very good way. Of course, there is always the possibility, because DE has branched out in the past with Keystone / The Amazing Eternals, which is a game that they had a founders program for and came out with, and eventually just got canceled, and they refunded all the founders and everything like that. There is the potential for things to go that way again, and they roll it back and go back down to like, you know, just being a Warframe studio again. But based on the trailer, which you guys are going to see at the end of this video, I think that the concept is really cool. And if they can pull it off in the same way that they pulled off Warframe, which, hey, here we are 10 years later into the game, I think that there's a lot of potential in it. And I also think that I am gonna have even less time if SOULFRAME becomes like the same equivalent like update schedule and everything as Warframe. I don't know if I'm ever gonna play a different game again if they're both just as good as each other. But yeah, that's Tennocon 2022. Absolute tremendous amount happened. It went off really honestly without a hitch and with like no bad news to be said anywhere. Like, the worst news I have is that I don't have more news about, like, Veilbreaker, which seems to be the next upcoming thing. But like I said, I suspect that we're going to hear more about that in the dev stream next month. And hopefully everyone at DE gets some well-deserved time off after having Tennocon just kind of go off with just no problems at all. But yeah, that's going to do it for the breakdown. Thank you all very much for watching the video. And enjoy the trailer. Hopefully you've enjoyed the breakdown. I'll see you tomorrow.